We heard Bill English decrying the fact that New Zealand has debt. I read the quote from Bill English on the 18th of December 2008, shortly after he took over. This was in the New Zealand Herald. Bill English saying, "I want to stress that New Zealand starts from a reasonable position in dealing with the uncertainty of our economic outlook. In New Zealand, we have room to respond. This is the rainy day the government is saving up for." That was the reality of what this incoming national government inherited. They inherited 8 consecutive budget surpluses, each of which was opposed by the then preceding opposition spokespeople and national opposition, Bill English and Don Brash and John Key at different times, all opposed every surplus that we ran. And had we not run those surpluses, New Zealand's situation would be even more dire than it is. The fact that it is dire now is not because of the actions of the prior Labour government, it's because of the mismanagement of the economy by the National Party and their allies, the ACT Party and the Maori Party since. Now, while we're on that little sideshow, why is it that there is so much interest in what's happening with ACT at the moment? The National Party like to pretend that we're under first past the post, and because they're ahead in the polls, they're going to win an MMP election. Of course, their actions belie that they know that is not the truth. That's why we've seen a National Party takeover of ACT through Don Brash and John Banks, both former members of the National Party in this House. They have taken over the ACT Party because they know that under MMP, the Horizon poll in the Sunday Star Times a week and a half ago showed that the gap between the left and the right is only 6%.
That's right.
A 3% swing against National to Labour sees the Labour Party MMP side of this House as bigger than the National Party side. And that is why we have had a coup of the ACT Party, because they knew that they needed to do something. The sad reality for National is that they're predating on their own vote, because everyone knows that Don Brash stands for asset sales 100% of the way, not the fiction that the National Party are taking to the election at the moment, that they'll sell only 25%. They inherited low debt. We also heard from Bill English. He said average wages after tax have increased by 10%. Only if you include the top 10% who got all of the benefit of the tax cuts. The wages for more than half of the people in New Zealand who earn a living have gone down in real terms. It's only if you manipulate those figures to include the top 10% for whom this government so plainly govern that you get ahead. And they're the same 10% who will benefit from the sale of the SOEs that the government is trying to push through. They don't care if electricity prices go up much. They will if we sell the electricity SOEs. We all know that. Electricity prices will go up further. Why don't they care? Because that small 10% of the population gets so much under this government and would from any future government. The other 90% stay about the same overall, but the bottom 50% go backwards, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in this coming election, electors will have a choice. Do they have a country that tries to fill the gap left by unaffordable tax cuts by selling SOEs? As Phil Goff said today, the sale of SOEs would fund not even 1 year of the government's deficit.
That's right.
That's the terrible situation that this government has got us into. Not only have they given up on their promise to close the wage gap with Australia, to lead New Zealand to a brighter future, to have a step change in the economy. Remember those 3 promises at the last election disappeared from the language of the National Party because they are failing, because they have no plan, no adequate plan to grow this economy. We have increasing numbers of New Zealanders going to Australia to earn a living, so much so that Julia Gillard, when she was recently here, said she views New Zealand as a source of well-trained, good New Zealanders who then add to the growth of the Australian economy, a loss to ours, a gain to the Australian economy, another of the promises that the national government made that has been broken.
Tauraro Flavel. Mr. Speaker, the